This is a Ward's Western Field Model EJN 750 in caliber .243. This rifle was made sometime in the late 50s or early 60s. The interesting thing about this rifle is it was made on a Sako L57 action. I want to mount this early 1960s Lyman All-American fixed 4-power Perma-Center scope. Here's a Lyman ad from 1962 which is introducing the new Perma-Center line of scopes, meaning the reticle's always centered. And your choices of reticles were the post and wire, the crosshair, or the crosshair and dot. The optics are very clear on this scope for it being well over 60 years old. I'm going to use these vintage Sako rings. Now the 25.4 that you see, that's just the millimeter equivalent to 1 inch. On these L57 actions, the scope bases were actually milled into the top of the action. On the scope ring here, you'll see this post. It indexes into the scope base at the back of the receiver. The scope bases on the receiver are tapered, so these rings are tapered as well to fit. Due to the tapering of the scope bases, when you put the rings on, you want to make sure these big round knobs here are always on the bolt handle side of the action. These vintage Sako rings are all steel, but for some reason the screws are soft steel, so you need to make sure you use a very properly fitting bit so you don't mar up the screw slots. There are all kinds of screwdriver bit kits, but I like using this one. It's just a simple Winchester kit. I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested. I'm removing the top of the scope rings. These are low profile scope mounts. And I'm already a little bit concerned that when I place the scope in here, it's going to potentially come in conflict with the rear sight. When I'm starting to mount the scope and slide it forward, this is absolutely perfect for eye relief. Now you can see where the rear sight gets in the way of the scope just a little bit. I wish I had medium height rings, it would make it a lot better, but all I have are low profile, and these old Sako rings can be expensive, so I'm going to use what I have. But fortunately, when you sight through the scope, you don't notice the rear sight at all, and it's going to be 100% fine just the way it sits. Now I'm going to finish tightening up the screws. Once I get them all tightened, it'll be time to take it to the range and sight it in. The top two shots were the first ones at 100 yards, so then I made the adjustment and brought the group down towards the center. I'm just going to paste up these shot holes, go back and shoot another group at 100 yards, and hopefully get a similar group. For the type of hunting that I'm going to do, that's more than an acceptable group at 100 yards with a 60-year-old rifle and a 60-year-old fixed 4-power scope.